I'm
This is
loud.
Gary's.
How good are you? What about that?
Gary's in the middle today.
Yeah, I'm alright. Nuts are a bit squashed. Oh,
Hey, he's up to it.
This is what motorsport is. It's loud. That's why I like it, because I'm loud.
How good are you? What about that?
Actually, I can actually.
Tom Shaw Racing says yeah, the RX8.
yeah, I'm alright. My nuts are a bit squashed. I'm out.
Alright, let's hit go live on that and then we'll go live.
This is what motorsport is. It's loud. That's
I'm
why I
going to
like
go
it,
get my
because
coffee
I'm
in a
loud.
second. Just
How
making sure
good are
that
you?
everything's
What
working.
about that?
Actually, I can actually
Oh,
keep
good,
it because I got there.
Yeah, just wanna make sure
Yeah, I'm
that
alright.
we're
My nuts are a bit squashed. I'm out.
So it won't go live yet. Or maybe it did go live.
This is what motorsport is. It's loud. That's why I like it, because I'm
Is our
loud.
mic on?
How good are you? What about that?
Actually, I can actually keep it because I got there.
Yeah, I'm alright. My nuts are a bit squashed. I'm out.
This is what motorsport is. It's loud. That's why I like it, because I'm loud.
How good are you? What about that?
Actually, I can actually keep it because I got there.
Yeah, I'm alright. My nuts are a bit squashed. I'm out.
This is what motorsport is. It's loud. That's why I like it, because I'm loud.
How good are you? What about that?
Actually, I can actually keep it because I got there.
Yeah, I'm alright. My nuts are a bit squashed. I'm out.
This is what motorsport is. It's loud. That's why I like it, because I'm loud.
How good are you? What about that?
Actually, I can actually keep it because I got there.
Yeah, I'm alright. My nuts are a bit squashed. I'm out.
This is what motorsport is. It's loud. That's why I like it, because I'm loud.
How good are you? What about that?
Actually, I can actually keep it because I got there.
Yeah, I'm alright. My nuts are a bit squashed. I'm out.
This is what motorsport is. It's loud. That's why I like it, because I'm loud.
How good are you? What about that?
Actually, I can actually keep it because I got there.
Yeah, I'm alright. My nuts are a bit squashed. I'm out.
This is what motorsport is. It's loud. That's why I like it, because I'm loud.
How good are you? What about that?
Actually, I can actually keep it because I got there.
Yeah, I'm alright. My nuts are a bit squashed. I'm out.
Hello and welcome to Blendline TV Live, episode 5 here at the Sydney offices. Joining me is Gary O'Brien, and this week we've got Ric Shaw with us from Mazda RX8 Cup as well. About to have a chat a little bit later on about RX8 Cup and Ric Shaw's involvement in the championship and motor racing in general across many years. Gary, we've got a pretty decent show up ahead. We're going to kick things off with some interviews with the production car guys, going into some stuff about sports sedans with a few of the new builds that have happened.
Yeah, and then after that, of course, we'll go to Brett Osborne interview that we've got going. We're going to look at some rally, particularly the launch of the minidulla rally coming up. New South Wales Rally Sprint, we've got a little package on that, which was quite interesting. North of Sydney. Cheap Car Challenge was another interesting one we should have a bit of a chat about. I think Ric's done a couple of those, or knows a bit about them. Then a couple of super sprint stories we've got going on. Super sprint's something we haven't touched a great deal on in the past, but hopefully there might be something in there that it'll spike a bit of interest. It's a different type of event. We've probably seen the biggest and best of super sprints in time attack, world time attack at Sydney Motorsport Park last year, but to just get down to the grassroots stuff is always good. We'll look at what's happening coming up this weekend, and then of course we're going to have a good long talk with Ric about RX8 Cup and about his career.
That's it. Plenty to come, and make sure if you've got any questions for Ric, write them down in the comments section. We'll try to get to them as best we can. Hopefully nothing that's too difficult to answer for him, as not too many curveballs or anything like that. But first things first, let's kick it off with the PTC interviews. We caught up with Chris Reeves, Jimmy Vernon and Harrison Gray a couple of weeks ago at Wakefield Park to have a bit of a chat about their season.
New South Wales Production Touring opening round this weekend here at Wakefield Park, and we were expecting to see a VW Sirocco amongst the runners here in Class C. Christopher Reeves, there seems to have been some sort of drama with that.
Yes, you're right, we did have a bit of a problem with the Sirocco. Modern production cars are getting hard to build. These computers are taking over, so it's hard navigating around that. So with the Sirocco out of the question till at least next week, we're running the Suzuki Swift.
And then a change of class as well. So you're actually in against those little Toyota 86s. I hope you're going to give them a bit of a run for their money.
Well, I hope so. If I catch any of the kids in the 86s napping, I'll certainly have a go. The little Suzuki is a great thing. Probably not as much power on the straight, but it's really good in the corners.
And I believe this is a driver training car. It actually has a spare seat normally in it, ready to go for when you're ever doing driver training.
That's correct. The idea of building this car was to try and get some more people in the sport. Can instruct some kids, or adults for that matter, get them their licence in this car, and they can actually do their very first race in it. So it's a good thing.
Well, we wish you all the best of luck for the weekend. Good luck.
Thanks very much. I'm hoping we have a really good weekend and push ourselves up the order a little.
I'm here with Jimmy Vernon of car number 50. Jimmy, you were the winner of race 1, but not so lucky in race 2.
Yeah, unfortunately, we knew it was eventually going to happen because we were still running the original clutch in the car. And it lasted as long as it did, but it's not going any further. So, yeah, we DNF'd that race and we'll be back for the next round.
So, no race 3 for you guys today?
No, we're about to put the old girl in the trailer and see if we can fix it before the next round, which shouldn't be an issue. We know that it's just the clutch, but it's a bit disappointing. But at the same time, we made some setup improvements, and in the 2 laps I got, it felt really, really good. So we learn a lot this weekend, and I think as a team we'll go back from it and we'll come back with a stronger car, and now we just need to work on the reliability.
Yeah, well, we saw you sitting off the track there watching all the cars go by. Is that pretty frustrating, just watching everyone else race?
It was a little bit frustrating, but like I a bit of a mentor to young Harry Gray, and he just won Class D, so it was really cool from that perspective to watch him do really well in his 86. So yeah, looking forward to working with him again in the near future, so check out the announcement which is coming soon.
Yeah, all right, we'll definitely have to stay tuned for that one. But look, unfortunately, not a great ending to the weekend, but at least you got that position 1 in the first race, so we'll see you next round.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm with Harry Gray of car 333, winner of Division D in race 2. Congratulations, Harry. How do you feel?
Yeah, good. That was our first race win in the car. That was our plan, this year to attack the championship, and the first thing to do is you need to win races. So that was our plan coming into this race. We stayed calm, and we just got on with the job and came away with the win, so we're happy.
And how is the car feeling? You've been happy with its performance this weekend?
Yeah, we came into Friday practice. Because we had the car fully stripped during the week, we said it's either going to be fast or it's not going to be fast, so it was fast. We were lucky, we were very lucky. So yeah, we'll just keep pressing on and see how we finish for the rest of the day.
And what's your plans for the rest of 2019? What are your hopes for the season?
There's a big announcement to come with Jimmy Vernon. That's all. Stay tuned for that. It's a little bit under the books.
You alluded to that a bit earlier, so we're all going to be waiting anxiously now.
But yeah, other than that, just to finish the year in this car and hopefully win a championship. So that's it.
There you go. Best of luck for race 3.
Thank you. Thanks.
So some great insights there. Chris Reeves not running the car we expected him to be, and we touched on that during the coverage that was on Blendline TV. So if you want to have a look at some highlights, there's 30 minutes of highlights on the YouTube channel. But interesting to see him running a car that enables people to get involved with production car racing.
Well, like his attitude, getting out there and having something to back up with to start with, and then of course, as he said in that interview, this of course came from Wakefield Park a couple of weeks ago, that to have someone else bring someone else into the sport, perhaps. That's something like Ric's been doing, with his new series, which we're going to touch on later. Having new people come into sport, and there's some old bodies that came back as well.
Some real old guys. A bit older than you now.
That's anyone's been around longer than Gary.
Come on.
But we also caught up with sports stands. We caught up with Grant Dillman and Scott Reed, who have both had.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say there, we're coming up to a national sports sedan round, and we're just going to touch back on some interviews that we did at the state round, the national sports sedans with new sponsorship from DEA Performance, which we sort of had a ball cut last week when we went to mention it. They'll be joining the Kumo Taiha New South Wales Sports Sedan Championship. So just to get a bit of an insight on how some of those cars went, and really, some of these cars, the guys we're talking to, can really take it up to the national guys.
Definitely. Birrell Chetton as well, one of those front runners. So we'll take a look at that interview now with Grant Dillman and Scott Reed.
Well, we're here for the first round of the New South Wales Sports Sedan Championship for 2019. While sometimes we do see new cars, we see this particular car, and while it's not technically new, it is. Grant Tillman, tell us a bit about it.
Hey Gary, how you going? Yeah, the car's literally had a total strip and rebuild. It was back to bare chassis. We found a few cracks in the frame itself because it was built in '96. It's I wouldn't say an old car, but it's older compared to a modern day sports sedan. And in the process, we did a few upgrades, made the chassis a bit stiffer, put a few more bars in, and just went all through the car. Got some new body work, new carbon fibre work, new performance wheels, which are awesome. We tried them this weekend, and they're nice and shiny and strong. So we've got a whole bunch of new things happening, and the car's starting to prove itself, and we're really excited about how much further we can go with it.
My understanding is that you finished it Friday morning and then had to get down here, of course, and then go out and practice this morning and then qualify. How did it feel after all that?
There were plenty of zombies, and I got to say, Aaron, Wayne, and Emma, we just 4 a.m. in the morning loading it into a truck. There was paint dripping off it. There was the spray painter BJ. He was just unbelievably awesome getting panels to us. Greg from Sydney Composites only finished the front end on Wednesday, so all these bits just all came together at once, and we're very excited. So there was plenty of zombie-ish people coming Friday, but we were in the truck on sort of 8:30 in the morning and kept going. We got a session in yesterday, and we all had a pretty good sleep last night.
No time for partying. Well, we wish you all the luck in the world with this over the weekend, and certainly it'll be one of the cars that really stands out this weekend here at Wakefield Park. One of the few Trans Am spec cars you'll see in the New South Wales Sports Sedan Championship this year is Scott Reed with his Ford Mustang. Scott, you might just explain a little bit about it. You went so close last year to win in the championship as well.
Yeah, we got the second outright. Look, when we got this car, there's been so much production put into this car. We didn't have brakes working. We just had problems with the car. We've nailed it now. I've given to a professional. Stuart Inwood has been helping me with the car, who has brought the car right up to the pointy end of the competition. There's a couple of little things we've got to do with it just to get it a little bit further, but we're happy with the way the car's running. It's the only one of the Trans Am cars that are running in the sports sedans, which is the tube chassis. And we've obviously gone up from 16-inch wheels up to 18-inch wheels, which has made a considerable difference.
And Stuart's car's obviously your opposition as well, because he runs a Corvette and it's a Trans Am spec car as well.
Yep, and we're best mates. Yeah, we're absolutely best mates. So, look, when we're in the garage, we're best mates. When we're out there, we don't like each other too much, as from a mate's point of view. But look, the car, we're very happy with it. We've got balance in the car now. We didn't have it. John Bow drove this at one of the muscle car masters and put some input into the car, and we've capitalised on that, of course. But yeah, we're very happy with it.
Well, let's hope that you take the fight up to Stewie in the race. We see you later on today, and of course we've got 2 races tomorrow.
You bet we will. Thank you.
Of course, Trans Am spec cars, there's a few in Australia. They're American built, obviously. A lot of them went via New Zealand, raced over there for quite a while. But the main difference between them and a sports sedan is that the engine must stay forward of the firewall. They can't run a transaxle, they've got to run a gearbox and a rear diff. But basically, other than that, pretty much the same sort of speed at the end as well. And it's great to see that Scott's out there running that car. There's a couple more, as we said, there's a couple more running around. Paul Beauchet has one with Corvette body on it. The main rules as far as Trans Am went, that they had to be the body and the engine from the manufacturer. Most everything else is basically like a supercar, you know, that's all very much the same with the Hollinger gearboxes or whatever they run, and their 9-inch rear ends. And yeah, so we're looking forward to seeing a big lineup of cars, April 6-7 out at Sydney Motorsport Park for the first round of the DEA Performance National Sports Sedans and the Kumo Tyre New South Wales Sports Sedan Championship.
It'd be good to see Grant Dillman out there as well. They had a few dramas with that car after race 1 and ultimately ended up parking it. Hopefully they figured out how to maybe get a bit more clearance on the spark plugs to be able to
yeah,
make sure they don't damage
they
the
sort of
cylinder.
said it lost a cylinder, but they
Yeah.
seem to think it might have been because one of the spark plugs exploded or something along those lines. So they were running on 7 cylinders, and rather than trying to chase that sort of a problem on a Sunday morning in confined space, they thought they'd go home and do it properly, and it might have been just something in getting the car down there in the first place.
Hopefully it shows that he can have a good run though, because he was chasing Bill Chetton down with 7 cylinders. So if he has 8, he might be right back up there in it. So that'll be good to see. We also caught up with Brett Osborne across the weekend. Now Brett has won a pretty prestigious award in the off-season, Gary.
He did. He won the Kevin Bartlett Honorary Award at New South Wales State Championship presentation night. That was a biggie. Brett, we know he's won several HQ Nationals. He's a former state champion as well. So, yeah, he's kicking all the boxes at the moment, and he's been a great influence on one Joel Heinrich in his bid to win last year's Saloon Car Nationals, as well as the Aussie Racing Car Championship. And this year, of course, Joel is running around in the Super 2 Series.
They're pretty well supported by Osborne's Transport. So let's take a look at our chat with Brett Osborne now.
And with Brett Osborne at the end of round 1, look, Brett, not quite the result I'm sure you're hoping for at the end, but it was a good battle to the end.
Oh yeah, no doubt. We had a really good day yesterday with pole and winning race 1. Today we ended up with 2 seconds. Chris Mole had our measure today, so a huge congratulations to him. Credit to their team. But yeah, we'll take a couple of second places today, and we'll move forward to the next round and try and make a few improvements and see how we go.
Well, I know he's been saying he's been trying to chase you down for a while now, so I know he was pretty excited.
Yeah, that's right, and he'll admit it's been a few years. He's really been pushing and really chasing, and to out and out just show us up today, like I said, huge credit to him and his team.
And now something else, Brett, is that you were actually the recipient of the Kevin Bartlett Award, and you were actually the first HQ Holden driver to receive this award. What does that mean to you?
Personally, it's huge to get recognised for our successful year in 2018 and what we accomplished there. Just massive, but as much for me, for HQ New South Wales to also be recognised amongst all the other state categories, that's huge for our club as well.
Yeah, and what has the feedback been from the other people in the category? I'm sure they were pretty happy for you as well.
Oh yeah, all the competitors that we've spoke to about it have been over the moon. I think they all appreciate how much goes in and how hard we've tried to get to where we are. So yeah, they've all been really positive and very supportive as well.
Now moving forward, what's your plan and hopes for 2019?
Yeah, so we'll go home and, like I said, try and tune the car up a bit more, make it a little bit nicer for next round at Eastern Creek, and hopefully we can succeed there and yeah, see what the rest of the season brings.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we're all eager to see how you go at round 2 as well and continue that battle with Chris. Yeah, no doubt Chris Mole's going to be up there for sure. Jason Mole was fast, just was a little bit unlucky today. Glenn Deering, David Proglio had a great weekend this weekend. There's so many fast cars, so we'll be battling hard, but yeah, we're definitely up for the challenge. Well, good luck, and we'll see you at Eastern Creek. Okay, thank you.
Great info there from Brett Osborne. Good to see him getting recognised. I guess he's been one of the stalwarts of New South Wales motorsport and won a lot of championships over the last couple of years.
He has, and we could get Johnny Baxter back up and running, give him some more hassles. Although the Mole brothers did really well down at Wakefield Park, didn't they? They ended up with Christopher Mole winning the round, and Jason actually won a race, but then had some bad luck in one of the other races. So
he's had a tough time,
yeah.
Unfortunately,
So
but, you know.
There's no Brett Osborne out in front dictating terms now, which is probably good for the category, not so good for Brett.
That's it. He'll be looking to defend his championship yet again, no doubt. Now, a new one that we're going to have in a couple of weeks' time here on Blendline TV, offering a lot of social media coverage, is the New South Wales Rockstar minidulla rally. Rockstar Automotive coming on board to support minidulla this year. We're going to be down there on Saturday the 30th of March, down at Shallow Crossing Swallow Crossing, I think it is actually, down there on the south coast. There's a lot of competitive stages. Everyone's expecting those stages to be pretty fast. But last weekend we headed down to Nowra to have a chat with some of the guys and get a feel of what this event is going to be all about. The 2019 minidulla rally will run on the 30th of March. You'll be able to see highlights here on Blendline, proudly brought to you by Rockstar. We went down to South Coast, New South Wales to have a chat to some of the guys involved to get an idea of what's coming on the 30th of March.
The minidulla rally, we're pretty excited this year. It's going to be one of the bigger years that we've had. We've got the full footage for all competitors. Some of the roads are looking really, really fast and swept. So it should be a really good rally. Should be fast. Yeah, Rockstar Automotive have come on board as a naming rights sponsor, and they've provided a lot of financial support to us. They also got giveaways and goodies for the drivers and navigators and stuff. So yeah, no, it's been a real plus having them come on board to help out. People don't realise the behind the scenes how much hard work goes into organising an event like this, and there's a reasonably small crew that put in a lot of hard work to get this off the ground and make it what it is. They've put in a lot of effort this year, a lot of extra effort, because we've tried to make it bigger and better and make it more exciting for competitors. Yeah, we'll have everything from the top runners. There'll be the fast four-wheel drive turbo cars, and then we'll have some of the faster classic cars will be there as well, right through to your sort of clubman level. It is a round of the clubman and the ACT series, also the Hyundai Rally series. So there's a good array of different cars, something to sort of float everyone's boat. And there should be some really fierce competition down there. There's some fast drivers that are looking like they're signing up to come on board, so it should be a really good year. Yeah, the entries are on the Rockstar Automotive minidulla rally Facebook page, also on the Rally New South Wales site. They can get on there and find the sup regs and the entry forms for the event there.
Started about 5 years ago. It's a Subaru orientated workshop. Our main focus is Subarus. We do a bit of everything. We do a little bit of race car work, mainly rally. That's our main sort of aim. This is my personal car. It's been off the road for 3 to 4 years whilst I've been building the business, and I've sort of set myself a deadline to try and meet that and get the car out and be rallying again. So it'll be built as an AMSAG rally car, South Coast AMSAG scrutineer. So mainly is AMSAG and CAMS events, but probably more the AMSAG side of things. 2 litre turbo, unrestricted, nothing fancy, just run of the mill sort of rally car. So we're trying to get the engine running, looms in. As of 2 weeks ago, it was a bare shell, had no roof, no windscreen. We've since put all that back in. We've been working flat out to try and get this thing running, looking in next week to try and get it running, get it on the dyno, see what it can do, and then we'll be sweet for minidulla rally just to sort of shake the car down, see what it can do, and then hopefully do it for rally events in the future. So being the sponsor, help out the club, that's the local club, Skadak. Yeah, they sort of, I do a few events with them, so I thought I'll get into rallying and do that type of thing, so that's why I sponsor it, and I enjoy rallying, so it's one of my passionate things. So it's been a while, so yeah, sort of get my foot back in the door and do a bit to help everyone. So get down to minidulla rally. It's at Shallow Crossing on the south coast of New South Wales. It's at the campground. It's great for families. Get out there and support a little club and out there in the rally world.
actually seeing old Datsuns and Ford Escorts run around. We were just commenting while that was on, just what a steadfast part of rallying those two cars have been in there for many, many years. But that's interesting. We see some highlights of what we're going to, we've seen a bit of a format of what we're going to see in next week's show and weeks coming on, especially on Mainline TV. Also, rally sprints, another form of the sport that we don't see a lot of anywhere on mainstream media, and it's quite interesting that rally sprints a little bit different from rally. It's a lot shorter, obviously, and you usually have the one course and you just do it numerous times both ways, and then aggregate or total time, whoever does it in the least amount of times win. The interesting one about which we're going to go and have a look at, it had 2 stages, but they were different lengths, a short length and a long length.
Just to vary things up.
Yeah, exactly. So we might just have a look at that, what we've got out of round 2 of the New South Wales Rally Championship.
The second round of the Shannon's New South Wales Rally Sprint Championship was won by Michael Harding and Jason Fordwaite in their Subaru Impreza WRX. Around 20 minutes southwest of Port Macquarie and based out of Wauchope, it is the second year that the forest roads in Hastings Shire were used. Harding and Fordwaite were the fastest over both the short and long stages, finishing with a combined time of 38 minutes and 57 seconds. They were 37 seconds quicker than fellow four-wheel drive class rivals Andrew Penny and Reece Llewellyn, also in an WRX. Third outright went to the two-wheel drive winners Aaron Casmiri and Adrian Pallister in their Mitsubishi Mirage. Russell Winks and Steve Hodges were the runners-up in two-wheel drive in their Holden Commodore and were fourth outright ahead of Peter Dimmick and Peter Helwig in a Datsun 1600. The Blue Range Rally Sprint followed the opening round held at Nabiac in February, which was won by 2018 champions Michael South and Justin Goodread, ahead of Dan and Ken Moyer. Both crews were competing in Subarus. Nathan Quinn and Ray Winwood Smith finished third in their Quinn's Asda RX2. The third round of the 7-round series will be held at Awaba on April 6.
Our thanks to Sports Photos for that footage and some of the still shots that we had from that event.
Now, another event that went on the weekend was the Cheap Car Challenge down at Pheasant Wood, just outside Marulan, the revamped circuit down there holding a lot of, I guess you could say, ultra grassroots motorsport. We got a bit of a review from that one as well, so let's check out the Cheap Car Challenge. The second round of the 2019 Cheap Car Challenge was held at Pheasant Wood Circuit across the weekend in memory of Jeff Hill, run as the Jeff Hill Challenge for the weekend. It's a great day of racing with 200 laps being completed by the victorious team of Haskins, Callan and Rawlings in the complex civil car. They were a lap up ahead on their competitor, the Quarters Cummings Bassingwaite Signline Racing team. As well as racing the Cheap Car Challenge, there was the miniature race cars holding a round of racing at the small country New South Wales circuit, with Chad Cotton taking home both victories from Craig White and Luke Burgeons behind him. A great day of racing at Marulan. The next event is on April 14th, with entries closing on the 5th of April. You need a car that's under 2 litres, manufactured between 1986 and 2006. You must have manufacturer model specification of a minimum of 4 seats, a roll cage and 4-point harness being compulsory. But with so many laps on offer for the day, seems like a great event. So check out the Pheasant Wood Circuit page for more details as the third round comes up soon. So there you go, a good weekend at Pheasant Wood. Of course, with the miniature race cars, they're having a couple of races as well. There was probably a little bit to see as you dived between storms. It was very wet down there last weekend. Now, further south, we had the Tasmanian Supersprints happening, thanks to the, I guess at Symmons Plains Raceway, the Tasmanian car club down there.
Yeah,
so a fairly strong field making the trek down to Symmons Plains across 4 categories. So hopefully we'll have a look at some of the action now, or some of the photos, and a bit of a review about that. The Light Car Club of Tasmania had the second round of their Super Sprint series at Symmons Plains over the weekend, with multiple sessions across the day of track activity. Cars divided into 4 classes. You had Class A 0 to 1600cc, taken out by Steve Martin in a Ford Cortina Mark 1 with the best time of 1 minute 12.25. Class B 1601 to 2000cc and Turbo Class A was taken out by Richard Thim in a Mazda 3, a 1 minute 6.68 best lap time. Class C 6-cylinder and Turbo Class B went the way of Bill Rattray in a Subaru WRX STI with a 58.95 second lap. Meanwhile, Class D 8-cylinder and Turbo class went the way of Chris Boyd and a Nissan Skyline with a 59.813 second lap time. A great day of action down at Symmons Plains. Make sure to check out the Light Car Club of Tasmania's Facebook page for information on their next round. A big thanks to all of the officials and everybody helping out down there as well. Great to see grassroots events getting a run, and hopefully we'll see plenty more on Blendline TV.
Well, that's Tasmania.
Yep.
Obviously, get the Super Sprints, Rick?
No, just tarmac rallies down in Tassie. Lots of tarmac rallies.
Yes, well, that's renowned for that one, particularly Targa Tasmania. And speaking of Super Sprints in Tasmania, now we're going to go right across the country.
The other side.
We're going to go to the CollieMotorplex in Western Australia. It's been around for a little while, but they've recently extended it with some major track work done there. And they also have a couple of rounds of the Western Australian Circuit Racing Championships there. One of them coming up in the next couple of weeks. So let's have a look at what sort of cars they run at Collie for a round of their Super Sprint series.
The CAMS Western Australia Speed Event Series headed to CollieMotorplex for a double header round, with Dallara F3 driver Kossi Silgovani taking home victory on both days. His winning lap time of 45.874 seconds on Saturday, enough for victory, while on Sunday he had to beat the time of 43.22 by Peter Morley and eventually went 4/10 quicker to be able to take victory in Sunday's action. With 95 competitors taking to the track, there was plenty of action to see across 2 days, and the rounds now continue on throughout the season with the CAMS Western Australia Speed Event Series. So a few cool cars over in Western Australia having a run at the CollieMotorplex Super Sprint. This weekend they've got historic motor racing on at the circuit, so if you're over in WA, get out to CollieMotorplex and have a look at some historic motorcycles. And then on the 30th of March is the Icebreaker race meeting, which is, I believe, similar to a state meeting with a whole variation of categories and some come and try categories as well. So if you want to get into motorsport over in WA, that's probably a good place to start. Check out the Collie Motorsport Complex Facebook page on Facebook. Indeed. Got myself caught in a tongue twister there.
Certainly did. Speaking of events coming up, we might just run through a calendar of events that are happening this weekend.
Okay.
We've got it there.
We do have the calendar. We put one together earlier.
South Wales, we've got the Southern Cross Rally Series from Rosewood, about Porcupine Hill, good name for a hill, and New South Wales Super Sprint Championships at Sydney Motorsport Park, all happening this weekend, this Sunday actually for them, Victoria, Hill Climb Championship and the Motorcano Championship. So we've got Hill Climb Championship, which you admitted where it's at, can't that, but Pakenham will be the opening round of the Motorcano series down there. In Queensland, Byfield Tower Rally Sprint at Byfield, Tycam's Queensland Hill Climb Series at Mount Cotton, of course that's round 2 of that series, and a multi-club hill climb at Mount Stewart. Now, Mount Stewart's in Townsville, of course, and you may have seen that on some of the supercar footage. That's a great big hill right in the middle of the joint. And then we go to Northern Territory. I'd love to go to one of these. The Top End Mud Racing Series, where it maybe some sort of tractor turned into something or other, and a couple of other events happening up that way as well.
Yeah, some great motorsport happening around the place, as I failed to
He's the director of this show, not me.
That's a quick look at the calendar. Next up, we have Ric Shaw, who's been sitting here waiting patiently for us to get through all that we had planned for this short show this evening. And Ric Shaw has pleasantly stayed around. We were finishing off the RX8 Cup TV show earlier today with Lachlan Mansell and Gary O'Brien providing commentary for that one. So make sure to tune in to Foxtel Channel 173 on Monday night, next Monday, 8:30 p.m. For half an hour of highlights. And I mean, there's a fair few highlights in this one of RX8 Cup racing. A great opening round. Ric Shaw has stuck around to have a chat about RX8s and his history in motorsport. Ric, thanks for joining us.
Oh, look, guys, thanks for having me. I'm just enjoying the show, you know, and watching how it's all going. And it's good to be here with Blendline TV Live tonight.
It's great to have you along, and I guess we'll kick things off a bit with RX8 Cup. We'll start there because we may as well start with what's the most recent. Is that where you plan to start?
Well, I was going to start at the start.
Okay, start at the beginning. Go to the other end.
Well, you've been in the sport for around 35 years, and it's all, in the early days, it was all Mazdas, wasn't it?
Yeah, for me it was, Gary, absolutely. Yeah.
RX2s, RX3s, RX4s. Talk a little bit about those early years at Amaru Park, particularly Oran Park to a point, street sedan racing. The fields were that big in those days, you had to have separate races for over 2 litre and under 2 litre.
Yeah, that's right, Gary. And like, I remember we used to thunder up the hill at Amaru back through the 80s, and there'd be 35 rotary cars, RX2s, 3s and 4s, you know, taking off up the hill like lunatics. It was good old days.
And we think back to the guys that ran back in those days. Mark Gibbs springs to mind, Mike Mortimer, yourself, Alan Shepherd.
Phil Alexander.
Yeah. There was certainly some names that went on to other things, and some of them stayed down in the grassroots of the sport, which is what they enjoyed and why they got into it in the first place. But others wanted to use that as a bit of a stepping stone to go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, for sure. And then one name you left out there really was Terry Lewis. And I used to race against Terry back in the street sedan days, Amaru and Oran Park, and in the early Mazda RX2s and 3s and that. And he's now with us in RX8 Cup.
Made his big comeback after 25 years out. Absolutely. And we must point out that he is an improved production nationals winner. He also won the Australian Production Car Championship.
In 91, I think it was.
98, I think it was, something like that. Anyway.
It was early
90s. It was in a Commodore, I can tell you that much.
He's getting pretty old now, the old
he looks it too. Don't tell him I said that.
On the live stream of all things.
Now, we also, while you were racing street sedans, your business was involved in RX and rotaries, tune-ups and all that sort of business. Well, I can remember you also running improved production and in sports sedans, and there was a triple rotor RX7. It was a glorious sounding car, and you end up winning a state sports sedan championship in that.
Yes, I did, absolutely. Yeah, that was a great car. I miss that car. I mean, if anyone out there's got it, I'd want to buy it back because it was a great car.
There you go. Start looking for compliance and plates and logbooks and see what you come up with. It was an interesting period. Improved production in those days. We called it club cars, I think, from memory.
We did, yeah.
It was road registered to start with, and then it became improved production when they decided that the category, the requirement was that it needed to be able to get a pink slip, and for those in New South Wales, that's a road-worthy certificate. And then they thought, well, why are we getting a road-worthy certificate for something we're never going to take on the road? So that's when they changed it to club cars and then took away the need to have the slip, but it must be able to obtain the slip, I believe was the ruling.
And back then everybody wanted to modify their car like they do today, and they wanted to modify them to a state where, a point where you couldn't run them on the road anymore.
Yeah.
And it wasn't sort of bring anything that you want to bring. There was strict rules, but you could certainly modify the cars to a point that made them very exciting to drive and fast.
Yeah, and of course if you ran a Mazda, it had to have a Mazda engine, not too much in the way of bodywork modifications.
That's right, yeah.
But basically, what a hotted up sports sedan from the 60s would have looked like, I guess, in some respect.
Yeah, and had to make the right noises, that sort of thing.
So what were they running back in that time as well? Like what was actually...
Rotary engines, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, they were bridge-ported engines and peripheral-ported engines, and there were strict rules on how the ports could actually be done. But they all made that classic rotary noise, and blue flames out the back, just like our RX8 Cup cars do now. You know?
Yeah, rotaries were a mainstay amongst a lot of competitors, but there was the odd turbocharged car,
later on,
2 litre turbos.
Sort of, turbo cars came
V8s really couldn't hang with them, could they, in those days?
No, they would struggle because the rotaries were more nimble and handled better and had better
And our
brakes.
circuits probably helped a little bit as well, Amaru particularly.
Amaru was pretty tight circuit, yeah. Absolutely.
Of course, moving on from that, you've run GTP for quite a while in Toyota products. Why the move from Mazda to Toyota?
Well, I
Availability?
drove a couple of Toyota cars back in the early GTP days with Osborne Motorsport, you know, Colin invited me to come and drive with him and part of his team, and that was a learning exercise for a few years for myself, where I learned a lot about motorsport and teamwork and working in a sort of semi-professional team environment. But it's still always been, you know, a rotary guy at heart, and I still am today. Want to race the rotaries, and so I ventured into racing in GTP, racing RX7s.
And then, of course, you did a bit of an overseas flaunt, you might say. 10 Nürburgring races, 6 Bathurst 1000s. Talk a bit about those, the differences of running, say, a near production car at Nürburgring to what we have with the Bathurst 1000 with the supercars.
Well, I mean, there's their own challenges with each sort of format, but Nürburgring's a 24-hour race. It's a real true endurance race. I'm sure everyone watching knows about Nürburgring. It's a common household name now. But to race at Nürburgring was a massive challenge, but a different challenge to racing V8 supercars at Bathurst. You know, that's become a sprint race now as we know it.
Yep.
And even when I was doing the Bathurst races through the 90s as a co-driver, it was becoming a sprint race then.
Yeah, for sure. And you had to be. There was none of this taking cut lunch for the middle period of the race and keeping the car on the track.
No, absolutely not. But I honestly had a Mars bar with me at Nürburgring. When I was driving around, you could chew on a Mars bar.
Yeah.
You know.
Is the traffic horrendous?
Yeah, it was pretty bad because we'd have there'd be 230, 240 cars. Mind you, it's a large circuit. It's 20, 25, 26 kilometres a lap for the format the layout that they run for the 24-hour there. So the cars do spread out, and then after the toll of 24 hours, the density thins out a little bit as well, and it's not as busy, but it's it's probably no different to 32 V8 supercars running around Bathurst.
Of course, that Nürburgring race has evolved a bit like the Bathurst 12-hour has. It's more of a GT style of race now, although you do have the breakdown of classes, more so than, say, the Bathurst 12-hour. But even watching in-car from a quick car that's still getting passed by others but still threading their way through traffic, you're almost hanging on, even though you're just watching it on a screen.
Well, look, it's a circuit that by nature is fast everywhere, completely different to the tracks we've got here in this country, much slower, average speed's a lot slower. So you're literally hanging on to the steering wheel, and you are driving the car, as hard as you can, but you're really hanging on and driving the car, and there's a difference because you haven't got time to relax at Nürburgring. That's a challenge.
Is it hard to remember the corners?
It took me a few years to sort of really get to know the track, and honestly, before I was truly confident, it probably took me a couple more.
Yeah. Have a map on the steering wheel.
Everybody carries a map, but I don't think, honestly, I don't think I ever looked at it once.
Although you'd think with the length of the track it'd be a fold-out map, but now with GPS and all the rest of it, it probably would be a bit easier.
Yeah, they monitor where the cars are on the track now, and the maps aren't really needed. It was probably more that if the car did break down, you could tell your crew whereabouts on the track map you were.
Yeah. I remember talking to a guy by the name of Dave Thomas, an Englishman who used to run Group 1 touring cars out of England, and he went across to the 3-hour support race there, which is historic touring cars basically, and he qualified 10th, and they sent him off 100 cars at 10-second intervals, groups of 10, so he's at the back of the first 10. And I said, well, what happens when someone's trying to pass you? He said, well, you just drive in the middle of the road and they make up their own mind where they're going. Don't get out of their way or else you end up in the fence.
Yeah, well, over at Nürburgring, the Europeans know the joint like it's their backyard, much like us Australians would know Bathurst. So when they're sort of driving around there, you try to stay out of their way because they're that much quicker than what we are. We go and drive it once a year, but you've got to give them a little bit of room, and you've got to watch out from coming in your mirrors.
And sometimes you might be in a dice of your own, so you might be trying to pass cars that are slower than you.
Absolutely, and because I guess, as I mentioned again, because of the speed of the circuit there, when you're driving the high speeds, it's a real handful. No matter what you're driving, you're on the edge, and it's a handful to control in that situation. And then you've got to add the weather and the fog, and 3 o'clock in the morning and that sort of stuff into it.
And that, of course, they run that code 60 rather than the safety cars.
That's right, code 60. So and most people wouldn't know that here in Australia. So it's like a safety car zone without a safety car, where we do the 60k speed limit, and it's just for safety, But the problem with those is you'd be doing 200 and something k's, and you drive into a code 60 zone. So all you're doing then is you slow down and you're looking in the mirror hoping no one's going to run in the back of you at over 200 kilometres an hour. And I've seen it happen. There's some pretty bad accidents caused by it.
There's also been accidents outside of race meetings there as well. And we'll just move on a little bit, touch on Bathurst and the 1000, of course, and then we'll talk about some of the other Bathurst events you've done. But the 1000, your first one, what was that like?
Frightening. I can remember it was back in '94, and Steve McLean was our crew chief back then, and he's in RX8 Cup, and he just had his first round win. So congratulations to Steve. He drove really well, but it was wet, and they stuck me in the car and said, "Here, start the Bathurst 1000 in a V8 car." For your first time in the wet, never driven it before in the wet, way you go. So I was terrified. Yeah,
I remember John Bauer telling us that in '94 he started in the wet too, because he was given early, and they started out position 12, and he said he was there trying to see through the mist and that on the windscreen, looked over and seen Dick Johnson standing in the pit lane laughing at him.
There's probably a bit of sign language going on there too.
Yeah, and of course you went back there and did another 5. Wayne Russell, obviously.
Wayne Russell from Newcastle.
Yeah, he did a few with him, and then did one with Mike Conway as well.
Mike Conway in a Ford, yep.
And since then you've done quite a few other Bathurst meetings, whether it be 12 hours, 6 hours, sprints.
24-hour races as well at Bathurst, when they were having 24-hour races, and lots of 12-hour races, Mazdas and BMWs and all sorts of things. So I've been very fortunate, done a lot of laps around there.
Any really favourite Bathurst event? One you finish, I suppose.
Well, one you finish, I guess. Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's so many memories. I couldn't pick one that was a dead set favourite, but they're all pretty special, really. I mean, anyone who gets a drive at Bathurst would agree what a special place it is, and how fortunate we are to have a circuit like that here in this country.
Yeah, and of course that brings us up to this year's the High Tech Oils
6 hour.
6 hour, not the Liquid Moly 12 hour, which was on in February. And you're obviously running this one as well.
Back in a Mazda again. Yeah, that's right. Back in the RX8.
This is one you've previously competed in.
We have. Yes, our team's run the car there a couple of times previously. We got a second in class last time, so we're pretty happy with that.
Yeah. So now we'll move on and we'll talk about RX8 Cup. Now this particular series caters for cars that are a bit different from the one you're going to drive it over Easter. Yeah. Tell us a bit about how that all got started, and then how you perceive to move on. I know immediately that your entry level for last year was something like about 12, 13 cars. You had 22 this year, so the growth has been phenomenal. But what brought it about, and how's it gone in your eyes?
Well, for myself, it was coming from a history of running production-based vehicles, sort of all my race career. And trying to do it as cheaply as possible. So looking at grassroots motorsport and going back to the old street sedan days, where it was all rotary cars and they were hardly modified. They were still virtually road registrable vehicles, and very controlled. I thought, we need to revisit this, and there's a lot of guys out there that want to race in a category like this, come in the grassroots level. Not a lot of money there to run a car or build a car. You need to make it as easy as possible, to do that. And so I thought about RX8s, and I thought there's enough of them out there, and there's enough blokes who love rotaries that would want to race one, never knowing that we were going to bring back some of the older guys who used to race rotaries 20 odd years ago, and they've gone, oh, street sedans again. So that's sort of where it started, and I thought a bit about it, and worked out a controlled formula for the cars technically what they would be, and how cheaply we could make them still have them safe and still have them worthwhile driving. I mean, the RX8's a great sports car, and it is a sports car. They handle beautifully. They're really well balanced. They make all the right noises. They blow lots of flame out the exhaust. So that's attracting to guys who want to go motor racing. They're also the die-hard rotary guys that are out there. There's been no rotary formula in Australia for a while now. I mean, improved production used to be dominated with rotary-powered cars, RX7s and RX2s and RX3s.
We've just got some footage up now from our most recent round. But the people that came back into the sport, particularly the older guys, like the likes of Terry Lewis and Nick Dunkley, were the two that came in from the start. Did they come to you, or how did the communication level start?
Look, it's an amazing thing, motorsport, but word of mouth travels quickly. And I guess when you throw an idea on the table and say, hey, let's go and do this, and it's probably not such a silly idea, a lot of people find out pretty quickly. So there was a fair few inquiries that came back to myself about, what I was trying to put together. And I guess I was lucky. I just had a lot of support from guys that were passionate about grassroots motorsport and passionate about rotary-powered vehicles. So, as I said earlier, there's enough RX8s out there that we can buy them cheaply enough now and turn them into good race cars, good fun race cars. You don't have to do a lot to them. So that made my job a lot easier to make one track worthy. And geez, that was a close miss, wasn't it? There's a bit of grass cutting.
Terry Lewis.
Anyway, Dead Set forgot to read the rules on how to use the tyre in that one.
And that was a result of that incident with Will Harris there carrying no door.
Yeah, we actually ended up with a 5-door RX8 there for a minute.
It didn't open either way, did it?
Terry out to bend some more speedy wheels. So, as a formula, a cheap, easy formula that people can build cars themselves at home. They don't have to employ people professionally to build a car for them. It's really very easy to screw one together to a state where you can go and do what you can see on the screen here, do it safely and have a lot of fun.
Perhaps not do what that one did, but...
And do it in an even environment where all these cars are so equal.
Yeah.
That's it, pull up and stop.
It's
so equal that it doesn't matter which car you jump in, you're going to do pretty much exactly the same lap times.
Yeah.
There's Nick Dunkley, of course, who raced in production cars some 12 years ago.
I guess have you found that, of course, it seems like at the moment as well, there's a lot of rotary revival sort of going on where all these guys who are able to now afford some rotaries and get out and race them are wanting to get involved. Are you finding that those guys, I mean, I know it has a strong presence online because of that, but are those guys now getting into this form of racing because they can actually get into it?
They are. There's a whole new generation of racers out there, and half of this field is all brand new young guys, just got their race licenses, put a car together in the garage and they've come racing. And they got the support of their dads, swinging spanners behind them. So, yeah, look, a whole bunch of new guys to rotaries, that's going to hurt poor Lachlan. He learned a lesson about weight transfer there. But, they're old guys like myself that are out there, and we've sort of driven all sorts of cars and driven rotaries over 20 years ago and getting out there and doing it again. But we're mixing it with the younger guys. So it's as I said, it's about passion for racing a rotary powered vehicle, and it's a lot of fun.
It's currently you're running all sprint round format, and I know we spoke last year. You were talking about maybe doing an hour enduro somewhere down the track. Is that still very much on the cards as well?
Yeah, our third round of the season, we're going to do a 1 hour, call it a mini enduro, but a 1 hour race at Tailem Bend with the RX8 Cup, and there'll be a compulsory pit stop. So that gives the drivers opportunity to share the drive with family, friend, or whoever they can get to come along.
Or a gun.
Or a gun, and share the costs.
Yep.
Share the enjoyment. If they want to drive on their own, they can. But it'll just sort of throw a different something new into the mix for what we're doing. So most of our races are 10, 12 or up to 15 laps we've just done recently at Winton, and that's probably long enough for a lot of the guys that are learning to drive these cars and for the cars themselves, without damaging them. That's a long enough race. So a 1 hour they'll have to pace themselves, but it'll be just a different mix.
So if somebody wants to get involved, what do they need to do to build one of these things? How do we?
Well, first of all, you've got to find a good road car, or it doesn't have to be registered, obviously, but a car that's in good shape, a good mechanical, sound body, and what have you. They can contact us at RX8 Cup. We've got a website and we've got a Facebook page. Everybody in the categories very eager to assist and help any newcomers. Talk about how they built their car and what they did do and what best ways they found to do things and what not to do. But all the controlled items obviously come through myself that we've developed. They all come at a sort of a competitive price to make them as cheap as possible. So we've got product supporters with RX8 Cup that are helping us with all those parts, suspension and brakes and wheels and what have you, and tyres. And it just adds all together to enable someone to build a car really cheaply as what you can in today's environment for motorsport.
We talked a little bit about some of the old guys or veterans that came back. Old's not the right word. People seasoned. Talk about some of the new guys that come into sport and how they've performed. Who do you think there has really sort of stood out in the first season or the first half of the season? They come in a bit late last year. But we've seen a couple of guys here running on the weekend that look like they've got a bit of promise.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Quite a few of them have come from go-karts. Some of them have come from other sort of one-make type categories, and they wanted to step up to another level, probably to a car that was maybe a bit more exciting to drive. But look, half the field are really young guys now, that are really just sort of learning to race cars as such properly, because cars are so different to, as I say, to
can't use your body to throw the thing around.
Yeah, to go-karts. So the guys that have come out of go-karts have got to completely relearn absolutely everything from scratch. But I can't say we've got any real sort of guys that are the absolute outstanding outstands. At the moment, they're all pretty even, and that makes it so much more exciting. But one thing I will say is they're all super enthusiastic. You walk down pit lane and you talk to some of these younger guys, that are driving these cars, the Lachlan O'Haras and
these two in
Aidan
particular.
Riley's and they're just.
We were watching these two in particular at one stage there that they were side by side for almost a full lap without even touching each other.
Absolutely, yeah. And they don't want to give up. None of them want to give in. And it's exciting racing, but it's sort of they're showing respect. Most of them are showing some good respect to one another.
Yeah. Once they get acclimatised, though, you know what it's like, motor racing.
Yeah.
What sort of horsepower and top speed, just for those people that want to know that sort of thing, what is one of these things you think? I know rotaries can sort of keep building up speed as long as there's a circuit to race it on.
Well, the rules don't permit any modifications to the engine, so look, they're probably a bit underpowered to be a race car. But they're all the same.
Yep.
Everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's got the same power within 1 or 2 kilowatts.
Yep.
Everyone's on the same tyre, the same brake pad, so it makes them even. But they're still fast enough, and they carry enough speed to be exciting, as we can see there down at Pheasant.
So at a place like, say, Sydney Motorsport Park, what sort of speed are you getting down the straight?
I think Terry Lewis said he was getting 203, 204 kilometres an hour.
That's quick enough.
Down into turn 1.
Yep.
So that's not hanging around.
No, you're moving. That's for sure.
No,
We've had a question come in. I think it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. Will Harris wanting to know what brand of nitrous you use in your RX8. So I think he's just trying to have
fast
but we'll ask the question anyway, just so we can say we put it forward.
The stuff he lent me.
The stuff that rotated him down the back section, I guess you could say. So, doesn't need to worry about nitrous yet.
No, look, absolutely not. And look, Will's come on board, and we're waiting for his brother Brad to come on board as well, and they're going to have a couple of cars that they're going to build and race. And we're also waiting for their dad to get back into racing. And I used to race against their father in the sports sedan days.
Yeah.
And I'm told he's a pretty good steerer. They went go-karting recently, and I believe their dad Bill sort of was quicker in the go-kart than both the boys were.
Was that the guy that had the
Commodore?
The Valiant?
The Holden.
Yeah, he had a Holden with a Valiant engine in it.
I don't know if it was a Valiant engine. It was a bloody fast Holden.
Yeah, 6-cylinder
Valiant engine. It was quick, really quick.
Yep. He had a AP5 or something before that as well.
That's it. those Harris boys as well, of course, very exciting in IPRA over the last couple of years. We saw in 2013,
In
14,
Suzukis.
15 in little Suzukis, battling way above their weight. So good to see them in there. I guess, you know, it's looking good for RX8 Cup heading forward. So Morgan Park the next round up Queensland, so that'll be good to see. April 5 to 7, I think, as well.
That might garner a little bit of Queensland interest. Hopefully the Queenslanders will all be out there to have a look and be fielding inquiries. You're not racing that weekend, so...
No, I'll be wearing my manager's hat, and I'm the category manager, so I'll sort of stepping out and letting some of the new guys, you know, come through and have a crack at, you know, winning some races and have a crack at the championship, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and you'll be able to field all these inquiries.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, happy to help advise guys how to get into motorsport at any, you know, at the sort of entry level, and how to build a car and how to go racing it. It's a national series, but we're still trying to make it as cheap as a state level series.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't grasp the idea that you've got a race car which you build up, then you've got to think about entry fees, tyres, accommodation, travel,
exactly.
The rest of it. And you should. We were talking off air before that you should budget all that at the beginning of the year, and then even factor in a little bit of damage along the way as well.
Yeah, well, possibly. I mean, there's always a bit of rubbing that goes on in motorsport, and you get a few dents, but the parts for these cars at Motor Wreckers are pretty cheap. So it's a little bit like when we saw HQs, you know, come through years ago, and
they've got to go offshore to buy all the panels.
Well, that's it. They ran out of parts eventually.
But, stuck up on RX8 panels.
But
that's the business.
We control this category to the point where we're not going to let things get out of control. We're not going to let further modifications start to take place, and the cars become more expensive to build and more expensive to run.
That's the wise thing to do.
We just don't want that to happen. So we're going to learn. We've learned we're learning from other people's mistakes over the years with other categories, and that's sort of the whole philosophy of this category.
Yeah, we have seen that in the past where they've gone to change something or other, and then the ones that don't haves and the don't haves, and you know, it causes fights that you don't need.
Bigger wings and bigger tyres and bigger wheels and things like that. Yeah.
Well, Will Harris has just said it's a VP with a 265 Hemi. So there you go. That's what they're running. So that's how you get the power out of it. Well, all the best at Bathurst for the 6 hour, running another RX8 up there. It'll be great to see how that goes. We'll all be watching as closely as we can.
Class C or D?
Class C with an RX8 GT. So it's second generation RX8 in full production car trim. So it's a different trim to what we run the RX8 Cup cars. Yep. A fair bit more money goes into building a car to that spec, and then to build it to do endurance as well. Yeah. So it's a different car, but really no quicker. Yeah. Carries the same speed.
Interesting. So it's cost-effective racing to be in the RX8 Cup. Great to see. You'll be able to see it on with the AMRS throughout the rest of this year. We've got highlights coming on Blendline. Make sure to tune in on Monday night for all the action from RX8 Cup. I think that about wraps us up here for Blendline Live episode 5. Yes.
Thanks to Rick for coming in.
Big thanks for coming in.
Great insight into your career and into RX8.